Thank you, Stephen.
So should we do introductions?
Sure. I'm Sean Macbeth. I'm from Notion Theory. I'm a VR, AR, hardware developer, basically mad scientist.
Hi, I'm Robin Alter. I work for Ultra Haptics. I do partnerships. Ultra Haptics is a technology that allows you to feel objects, shapes, textures in midair without gloves or holding anything. We vibrate. We use ultrasound to vibrate the nerves on your hand to make you think you're touching something.
And I am Stephen Domenicos. I am with Tacti, a Boston-based company in haptics, and we have a small wearable device to let you experience VR, AR like never before.
All right. So this is Haptics panel. We're going to talk a little bit about what is haptics. Does everybody know what haptics are?
Great.
Well, I guess, does anybody not know what haptics is? Okay, so you pretty much know the basic idea and why it is important to AR specifically.
Actually, I would think the importance is underrated and not often spoke about. Usually when I read analyst reports, it talks about it's the third wave. We'll start talking about haptics, and I think it's here now, and that for AR to really start to break that barrier, to be much more intuitive and to have the effect you're trying to have, you're going to need to be able to have haptics. For example, if anyone in this room has tried on any AR device, reached out and your hand's gone through the menu or gone through the object, it's a very disoriented, unsatisfying feeling. And so being able to touch it, to know something is there, and then secondarily be able to manipulate it, I think is critical. And the other piece is that, even just as a form of human communication, and AR in particular will have a lot more of these kinds, because you see a lot of real people and virtual people. Communication is going to be one of the killer apps, how we interact socially. And if you think about it, I don't know, when you meet somebody, you shake their hand or you tap them on the back, or you probably had a lot of contact with people physically in the conference. And a lot of information and trust and other stuff is transferred through tactile interaction. So I don't see it as a, hey, third wave. I think it's important now. I think it's going to make all the difference in in the success of AR and VR going forward.
I absolutely agree. If you look at studies in control theory and how we use the tools that we have available to us, feedback is an integral part to how our devices work. If you've ever used different types of keyboards, the speed with which you can type on a keyboard is fundamentally tied to that tactile feedback. If the keyboard doesn't respond to your action right away, it drastically reduces the speed at which you can do input. And if you have maybe keys that are kind of mushy versus keys that click very sharply, those can all have an impact on your accuracy, your ability to work comfortably. So it becomes an ergonomic issue as well. So haptics for AR, for VR, for mixed reality, all those sort of things really tie into that ability to allow people to work efficiently.
So maybe I can just add to that, since we should talk about perhaps the different types of approaches that we're all here. I think everyone understands the importance of having the physical dimension of touch, and we'll some talks about that in the morning. But we do different things. Every company does different things. I think it may be a good idea to explain some of the different approaches to haptics, to haptic interaction, and why is that important for both AR and VR. I know you had a question.
Actually, I was going to ask about the integration points, so maybe you're going to go there. I mean, to someone untrained, I would think haptics is just slight vibrations rather than a ring on your mobile phone, for instance.
Well, yeah, let's.
You're talking about touch, and here we're talking about largely headsets.
Yeah.
So what I was going to ask is, where do you think, and where are each of your companies pointing? I don't think that really works. I'm pretty loud. It's okay. So what are the optimal integration points that you see today, and where do you see that evolving? Is it gloves? Is it wristbands? Is it all in the headset, and your brain gets retrained at a vibrant, I'll leave it up to you to.
Yeah, I'll answer, take a pass at first, and then I can, the rest of the people can respond. Look, there are different kinds of implementations today, and that depends sort of mostly on the application. But let me just backtrack a bit. The idea of having the physical dimension of touch is not an afterthought. I think we all agree. It's not the third wave or the fourth wave. It is, I think we are conditioned to believe that when we enter this immersive paradigm of AR or VR, the visual is the most dominant of senses, and that's good enough. And that's not really right. I think the paradigm has to be reversed, and I think has been mentioned earlier, that if we think of the digital world first onto which we paint the physical layer, then we can bring the rest of our physical senses into being, touch being the primary one. If you look at VR specifically, and I'll jump into AR, you have your favorite headset on and you hold something in your hand. You must hold something in your hand. And that is typically a controller with buttons, and all aware of the buttons. And that's really the old paradigm. So you have an immersive computing sort of experience with an old paradigm. That has to change. You go to AR, you mentioned, you see people touching controls, clicking, expanding, twisting things, hoping to feel something. There is nothing there. So it depends on the, I think, on the application, the paradigm. I can tell you, there are different implementations. We have a wearable device the size of a thimble. I know Ultra Haptics has a different approach. There are other companies in our space, Action VR, that have a totally different approach. And each approach has to respond to the application needs. So I don't think there's a singular implementation to satisfy all the needs. But each one has its pros and cons, and it really depends on the level of immersion and experience. Like if you wanted to pull a trigger, a virtual trigger, perhaps you wanted to feel that. If you wanted to control electronic devices sort of with virtual buttons, maybe a different approach sort of suffices. If you want to have a bodysuit, a different sort of technology is required. So I think, in short, it depends on the implementation. I don't think there's a singular point of integration between the headset and the tactile experience, but it has to be there. I think, without a doubt, inevitably, and the inevitability is now, it has to be there to provide for a seamless integration. Otherwise, we're just going to have a real sort of a haphazard implementation of this new immersive computing medium. That's my take.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. I think there's going to be multiple different haptic devices for different kinds of use cases. If you're going to be in a first-person shooter, you're going to want something a little bit stronger, and you want to feel the sort of heavy feedback. And so, and there'll be clothing, and there's some advantages to that in certain scenarios, and devices that you hold, and then this sort of non-device, no need for wearable kind of stuff, which is what we do. I think they're all going to address different parts of the sensual experience that we have living in the world. I think, from one thing that needs to happen as an industry to make this, it's a problem that happens, it's happening now in VR and it's going to, in AR, is like, where are the standards? So what needs to happen is kind of the work that I'm focusing on with the universities and then some of the standards bodies, is to create a layer that says, hey, they want the feeling of rain or pulling a trigger or a bomb or whatever that sensation definition is, and then see how it plays out through the different haptic devices. And that's something that if anyone wants to talk about, we can talk offline. But I think those are the kinds of initiatives that are important so that everyone can make use of the right haptic device that's available for them, the best for them.
Yeah.
But if haptics is a sensual experience as you defined it, and you create a specification or standard for what rain is supposed to feel like, don't you take the artistic portion away from being able
You just define the object of rain, and anyone can implement it through their device however they like.
It's much like language. Does having a predefined language restrict a poet in their ability to express themselves artistically, or does it enable them to be able to express themselves artistically?
And there'll be extensions, right? I won't be able to do, Ultra Haptics won't be able to deliver lots of sensations that others will, and I'll be able to deliver different types of sensations. Isn't that what I mean? Like different devices for different types of purposes.
He's the general manager of wearables for a big company called Intel.
Oh,
All right, cool.
Look, so he's a power player. So who else has a question? For time, we're going to leave you wanting more, and you'll have to find them afterwards. We're going to go to the next panel, right?
Yeah. Unless you guys want to say anything to wrap up?
Just thank you for coming to the conference. It's been really great to see how many people are really interested in mixed reality technologies.
And please stop by if you'd like to. I have a booth tomorrow, had it today. I see a lot of familiar faces. Happy to demo ultrasound haptics when you had a chance.
And I'd just like to close by saying the way we define the tactile experience today, as perfect or as imperfect as it may be, is probably how the next generation of human beings are going to experience touch.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.